Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch Harlan, and welcome to the Truth Talks podcast. Oh, this episode is going to be a good one. I've had the pleasure of speaking with her on multiple occasions. Whenever we bring a show, we want to bring somebody who can make a difference. And this is Melanie Verstraete. How are you?
I'm great, Mitch. How are you?
Straight out of Detroit, Michigan. That means you got to be tough.
I mean, I didn't actually grow up in Detroit. It was like the suburbs of Detroit, but yeah, still the same.
It's my show, Detroit. Okay, it's my show. That's how we got to go with this. Here we go. Love and relationship expert, founder of the Wild Heart Life, and she has helped thousands of men and women break out of unhealthy relationship patterns and find true love by understanding the root mechanism that caused them to be in a harmful cycle. She herself has had to overcome toxic relationships that stole her happiness in order to finally experience a freedom that only comes from the peace and confidence of being comfortable with herself and who she is. Abusive childhood, 2 very toxic marriages, and after the aftermath of the second divorce, was forced to make some hard realizations about herself, setting healthy boundaries, losing her voice and chronic people pleaser, to no self-respect and the idea how to break free. I tell you all of this because I have had the pleasure of speaking with her, and I say this with 100% confidence. This is a woman who knows exactly what she's talking about. All right, are you ready to get into this?
I'm ready.
Tell me why you're doing what you're doing.
Well, I know how bad it sucks to be in shitty relationships and feel like it's like you're stuck. Like there's no answers. There's no way out. You have no idea why it's happening. And somehow in your mind, you convince yourself that, well, I guess this is just my life and God must not love me or some other crap like that. You tell yourself, and you just stay the course. You don't realize that you actually can change it. You actually have the power to shift it and create a very different, beautiful, amazing life. That's the main reason.
So when you started to devise this program, a lot of this was on your own story.
Yeah. I'm kind of an unlikely coach. And what I mean by that is that I never set out to be a coach. I never set out to mentor people on relationships. What happened with that second divorce is like, I just kind of got like smacked awake of in essence, like, what are you doing? Like, what? 2 divorces, Melanie? What's wrong with you? Right? Like that was literally the thought that I had. And for many people, they could go down this really dark rabbit hole. But for me, it truly like I was being smacked awake because especially in our society today, right? It's very annoying, but we've made it very easy to blame, right? We've made it very easy to blame and cast responsibility. And there's no power in that. It's bullshit when you do that. And so in that moment, could I have blamed my first ex-husband and my last ex-husband? And one was belittling, one was controlling, one was narcissist. And I don't use that word lightly. I actually know what it means. One was an asshole. One was all these things, right? And could they be true? Yeah, of course. But who chose them? I did, right? There wasn't a shotgun wedding and arranged marriage. Like I chose them. So what part of me is okay with being in relationships with men that treat me like crap? That was like the real question, right? And so I just started working on me like it was my job. Like I was convinced I was broken. I was convinced that there was something very, very wrong with me. And in that journey, in that, I like to call it like unbecoming, right? It's just shedding all the layers of crap of like who I am not to expose who I really am. No, I'm not even going to say, Mitch, that I became a different person. I became myself. That's how I felt. I started to like feel like I'm in love with life. And before, truly my life felt like pure survival. There was no thriving in my life. It was, what do I got to do to take care of my kids? What do I got to do to make money to make sure the kids and I survive? What do I have to do to pay the bills? What do I have to do to not drown, right? Because I felt like I was just barely treading water, right? We're not here for that shit. Like that sucks. And so as I started to like myself for the first time. I was the most critical person you could have ever met, and like my inner dialogue. I started to have inner peace for the first time, where I was always like so tightly wound. I could feel like I could just go, ah, right? Like my nervous system could just relax. I used to attract trolls, and I started to attract kings. All of my relationships got better. Like everything just got so much more beautiful and easy and light. And then that's when it dawned on me, I had to walk that path, because who better to show others the way? Who better than the person who has, been in the trenches, been the phoenix, the warrior, right? Risen from the ashes, whatever resonates with you. Who better than the person that's walked the walk and is now on the other side and knows how to get there?
I always say the expert is the one who's been through it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I'm gonna shift this just real quick. Like, you have children.
Yes.
How many?
I have 3.
And they're boys?
No, 2 boys, 1 girl.
2 boys, 1 girl.
Yeah.
So where I want to go with this pathway is, this is what's fun about children, right? So we've gone through all we go through, and I wanted this to come out in this segment for sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you train your boys? How do you talk to your boys to not become some of these people that you see that create in toxic relationships? And then do they roll their eyes at you still yet?
So I have always taught my boys to be gentlemen, always. So even when they were little, I was like, you get the door for me and your sister, right? That would be about it. Like, I'm not having them pull out chairs or, things like that, but just to teach them respect and chivalry, right? And I talked to them. So this is it can be a challenge as a woman. Even though I've been married twice, I've felt like I've been the single mom the majority of my life, right? So you can be married and still feel like you don't really have a partner, right? So the challenge is balancing that within myself, because as a woman, I can't teach them how to be men, right? But I can teach them what a healthy woman looks like. And to your point, to answer your question, I feel like my generation did a bit of a disservice to their generation. And what I mean by that is, we tried to be friends with our kids. Now, I didn't do that. I did not do that. My thought with raising my children is, I'm not here to raise assholes. Okay. People may or may not like that, but I'm not here to raise assholes. There's enough of those, right? So that meant I'm here to raise good humans, right? I'm like, so to answer your question, I respected their voice and gave them opportunities to talk, right? I didn't talk down to them or demean them in a way like maybe our parents may have, of like, you're the kid, you don't have an opinion, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, never, right? And also at the same time, I'm the mom, I'm the matriarch, and there's a pecking order in this house, right? And so you will respect me.
I feel that resonating from your house. I feel it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I may be little, but shit, I can be a honey badger. Watch out. So it's like, you create this space of safety to be yourself, right? And to know your limits and respect boundaries with each other and with your mom and with others. And it's kind of hard to articulate and put into words. I know what you're asking here, but my whole thing is, they're really good humans. They all have really good hearts. They're not doormats, but they're not jerks, right? So they have respect for themselves and for others.
I love where you're going with that, because that's the way I was raised, and I think it makes the most logical sense, right? If you be the gentleman type of thing as often as you can. But what happens when the world changes? World changes. Now, now a lot of these guys are like, man, I'm confused as hell. Do they want me to open the door? Do they not want me to open the door? Do they want me to pay for dinner? Do they not want me to pay for dinner? We live in this confusing world. And we'll go back to a little bit of the statement that you said earlier. A lot of the people that you coach have kind of life experiences, have been there, kind of, got the shit kicked out of them towards the end. I can see that person really, really, really handling it quite well because there's a certain set of rules, but the rules keep changing all the time. Do you find that to be one of the biggest pattern problems that you're seeing now?
Yeah, it's what I see in and obviously I have a very different perspective than most because I've had this lived experience my whole life, right? And then I see the pattern repeating itself over and over and over again in all my clients. It's like the world wants to turn, well, let's just say this country, I'll say the world. This country wants to turn men into women and women into men and have them at odds with each other, right? So, like, I did this post yesterday and I knew it was going to trigger the fuck out of a bunch of people, but whatever. Like, yeah. And I said, ladies, I don't need a man is not a flex. It's a trauma response. And yeah, like some people loved it, some people hated it, of course, right? Most don't understand what I'm trying to say there, right? So the challenge is so for a woman, as an example, okay, if you grow up and you don't have a healthy relationship with your dad or with a masculine caregiver, right? Because not all of us are raised by our fathers, maybe grandfathers, uncles, whatever, but a masculine caregiver. And healthy meaning maybe he left, maybe he was cold and distant, maybe he was overly judgmental and critical of you. Like he wasn't healthy in himself, a stable, emotionally regulated human, right? How many of us have it's rare that, because we all have stories, right? We've all been through crap in our childhood, some more worse than others. But as a woman, if you grow up in that, then what happens is you will start to not trust men. This is not this like, oh, I don't trust men, right? This isn't this something that happens in your critical analytical mind. This is what happens in your body, in your nervous system, because that experience taught you that you can't. And so what I see for a lot of women today in like this hyper independent, I don't need a man, boss babe bullshit, right? Let's just call it what it is. It's bullshit. Is that was their first experience of I can't trust a man. I'm not safe around a man because the very man who was my example of masculinity showed that to me in my experience of he left or he mistreated me or whatever, right? So then she grows up, she becomes a young woman, she starts dating, and she finds herself in a pattern of attracting guys that don't treat her well. Fuck boys, emotionally unavailable guys that like make her last in line and they choose their guy friends over her, whatever the case. There's so many different things, right? And then she's already convinced men aren't that great, but hasn't quite clicked. And then she keeps dating the same kind of guy in a different body because she hasn't done the work to heal her wound, her father wound, her masculine wound. And now she's convinced all men suck because that's been her experience, right? My dad sucked. This guy sucked. Guys just suck, right?
We do.
Add to what you're saying, society, right? A real man is now considered a toxic man. What are you talking about, right? Like real man is what we need. Real men is what the world is missing. So not only has that been proven to her in her experience, right? But you watch TV and we're emasculating men. We're making men look so weak and so pathetic. And then she's out there and all she can attract is either really toxic men or really passive, more feminine men. And so now she's become his mother. Now she's controlling him. Now she's criticizing him. Now she's condemning him like he can't do enough. He can't be enough. And she's basically beating the man out of him. And then she's wondering where are all the good men? Hello?
We see this a lot in these relationships, and we go through these relationships much like you did. And again, the reason I have you on this show is because I believe that the expert is one who's been through a whole lot of shit and come out on the other side. So when people are coming to you, what is your greatest piece of advice? How do you start? How do you start getting them to think differently?
Yeah, it's the beginning part is an unlearning. I mean, the truth is we've learned a whole bunch of shit. We've learned
Yeah.
so much shit. So many lies. So the ABC XYZ, or like the, better relationships 101, you got to unlearn the lies. That is like, and so what are some of the things we've learned, right? I don't know, what's the word? What is this stupid cliche? Oh, hope for the best, expect the worst.
Yeah.
Dumbest fucking advice ever. Like, whatever you expect is what you're gonna get. So hello. Or, oh, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Again, oh my God. So when we grow up in environments and it's not, healthy relationships aren't mirrored, right? Again, this is not blame game here. I believe all of us do the best we can with what we know, period, right? So if it's not mirrored, a healthy relationship with our parents, their healthy relationship together, their healthy relationship with themselves, right? There's like so many layers here. How do we learn? We learn by what we see, right? Our subconscious is wide open and we just take on, whether we like it or not, whatever is in our environment. And then it becomes how we think, how we feel, what we believe, right? So who we actually become for the most part as we get older is a compilation of everything that happened to us, and we didn't actually choose it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's this program, right? We're all on like a conditioned program, whether people understand or realize that or not. And so this program will run your ass until you understand that you're running on a damn program. And that's why I said to you, usually we have to go through a couple crappy relationships to be like, oh shit, right? Like, sign up for this. This is not how I expected my life to work out. So it is this process of unlearning. It's like, well, how did I get here, right? How did I even get here? And it's not about beating yourself up, talking crap to yourself. It's this understanding of the psyche, the psychology of us as humans, right? Who we are as a whole, what we learned as children, and then you unlearn that, right? You start to dissect it. And what I have found more often than not, when we find ourselves in unhealthy relationships, we have had something that has happened as a child. And it doesn't have to be so dramatic as sexual trauma, physical abuse. It doesn't have to be that dramatic. I've worked with clients who have had a so-called perfectly good upbringing and perfectly good parents, right? And they still got into toxic relationships. What I have found, Mitch, is that when we get in unhealthy relationships with others, like the core here is that we have an unhealthy relationship with ourselves. And what does that look like, right? What's our inner talk? What's our inner belief about ourselves? Who like, so much of us walk around thinking that we are somehow unworthy or undeserving of good, whatever that is, right? Of overall goodness, that somehow I need to prove myself, my value, my worth, and then I'll feel good enough, right? And so what does that look like? When I have the money, then, right? When I have the career, then, when I'm ripped and shredded, then, when whatever it is, and we all have all of those things, and it's simply not true, because that thing that you're chasing after, once you get it, if you don't feel this internal love, acceptance, and understanding of self, nothing you chase ever will fill you up enough. It can't.
How do you know all this?
Well, I know a lot of it from my own lived experience, right? And then as I really understood me and what made me tick, and then I learned from some of the best in the business, the holistic psychologist, Tony Robbins, Bob Proctor, and Layla Martin. When I studied with some of the best to understand the psychology, the science, the spirituality, the root cause of why we do the things we do, and I became a master at that's how I know.
And regardless of what side is toxic in a relationship, it's all toxic, right? There's no partial toxicity, right?
I mean, I was toxic too. I wasn't perfect. Like,
You don't say. Stop it right now.
We
Thought you
all
were
have
perfect.
toxic tendencies. It's like, okay, can one be more than the other? Hell yes, right? So like were my exes more so than me? Yes. But when they lashed out, you bet your ass I'm gonna lash back out at you, right? Like you bet your ass I'm gonna get my words in, my digs in too. Like, and that's what we do is natural, right? It's like if somebody attacks you, that's what it feels like. It feels like this attack of like who you are as a person. It's natural to want to attack back. It's like the primal instinct in us. But once you learn why they do that to begin with, right? Once you understand you, it's so much easier to understand others. We're not that different. We're all very, very similar.
Why do people then stay in it for so long?
Ah, that is, this is what I want to do to people. It's really sort of shake them awake. Come on, what are you doing? We're all here, our own journey, our own life experience, what we came here to be, do, and have. I think if I think about like how I felt when I was in those relationships, why the hell did I get in them to begin with? Why did I stay in them, right? There's so many different reasons for so many different people. One of the reasons can be you don't know that there's any better. This is just how it is. It can be, well, I married this person, and if I divorce this person, then somehow I'm a piece of shit, right? My family's going to hate me. The church is going to hate me. Society's going to brand me with a scarlet letter, whatever, right? Another thing is like, I'm staying for the kids. Well, that's my favorite one, right? I'm staying for the kids. When they get older, then we can break up. That's almost like one of the worst things you can do for your kids, by the way. It's the stories we tell ourselves about what it means if we leave it. And we can become so complacent, so comfortable in that relationship. It's like the devil that you know versus the devil that you don't know, right? So you're in it, you've been in
Say that again. That's a great statement.
the devil you know versus the devil you don't know.
That's beautiful.
You've been in it for 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, 1 year, it doesn't matter, right? And you're like, well, I know this person and I'm comfortable and we got our group of friends and we got a dog together. We got kids together. Oh my God, what is it going to look like when we split all of this? It's like it's easier to stay in the crap, easier, it's not actually, than for them to even get on board of what something else looks like. They can't see the potential in the good of how amazing their life could be. Like that unknown is scary.
Don't stop there. Hit the home run. You're rounding third. You're coming to slide at home. What's it look like? What's the devil on the other side look like? It's beautiful, isn't it?
There, yes, fucking amazing. And I have found that when we're on this other side, right? Sometimes the pain has to get so great that over there, the unknown looks way better than what you're doing right now. Like it seems to be, it doesn't have to be this way, Mitch. We are stubborn as fuck. Let me tell you, but it seems to be we got to be like, kicked while we're down a few times and suffering a ton before we can be like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I can't bear this pain anymore. Anything would be better than this.
And we're talking about, unfortunately, years lost, not weeks, not days. People do it for years.
Years.
And then the magic that they could have had, and not that we're advocating for divorce or whatever. We're talking about true toxic relationship where you know it's toxic. As a matter of fact, I'm not an energy woo-woo guy, but I got something here real close to me right now, and I hope they're hearing this message right now. It's real close to me. But if it's toxic, it's toxic. And you got to move. You got to move, you got to shake, and you got to change it. And I always tell everybody, at least go to the top of the wall and look over. See what else is out there.
Yeah. And I think another reason people stay, Mitch, is because they think that they're going to change the other person somehow.
Keep going. Preach it. How well does that work out?
It never works out. Never, never, never. It's like, first, how would you feel if the person you were with were like, oh, if only you were like this, you'd be more lovable. You'd be just like this. Like, fuck you, dude. Right? Like, what do you think you are? So don't date projects. Don't try to save people. Please don't date people's potential, because hardly does it ever work out in your favor. It's like, accept. Please, please, please accept people for who they show you they are. It doesn't mean they're right. It doesn't mean they're wrong. Doesn't mean you're right. Doesn't mean you're wrong. But if you're dating somebody and you're thinking about getting in a relationship with them and you don't like, you don't love, you don't respect, you can't accept them for exactly who they are in that moment, there's no part of you that is going to love, accept, respect them in the future, because what you're actually convincing yourself is of their potential, who they could be, not who they are. And not all of us live up to our potential.
Preach it, sister. 80% isn't good enough.
Exactly. Exactly.
That 20% will crush you.
Yep. Yeah, because if it bugs you today, it's going to really aggravate the shit out of you tomorrow.
So, all right. Talk to me. How's a person break free? How do they find the courage? Do they need a coach like you?
Well, yeah.
Of course they do.
They need to do something, right? Like I mean, what was it, Einstein that said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result? But how many of us do that, though? We're like, hello? So find someone, right? Find someone who knows what they are talking about. Find someone who you resonate with. Please don't pay attention to the money. Like, I'm just going to say it. So many of us make choices out of the cost. Your life isn't Walmart, okay? You you wouldn't go, if you were going to get plastic surgery, right? Or heart surgery or something major in your body, you wouldn't go discount shopping. Don't do that with your life. Like, you don't search for like the cheapest option. Obviously, sometimes we do, but not this. And you don't have to go with like the most expensive person, but again, go with the person who you resonate with. Go with the person that you're like, this is what most people say to me, Mitch, who work with me. They're like, do you know why I picked you? Because I saw myself in you. Because I said, if she can do it, so can I. Like, I saw pieces of me in who you used to be. And I want to be who you are now. Like, as I'm saying that, literally, I'm getting like tingles. So it's like, find that person for you, whoever that is.
But I believe, and I want your experience on this and your expertise, I believe someone like you, a coach, lived through some shit, come out on the other side happy. I love that way more than I love theory. I love a story. A story allows you to resonate with somebody or not resonate with them. If you don't resonate with them, move on. It's probably not who you should be with. But I love stuff about coaching and people resonating with a vulnerability to open someone else up. And I don't often see that with therapy. It's a lot of this, what happened to you? What are your past traumas? And then you kind of work on trying to absolve some of that shit while the whole time you're losing out in life. Mm-hmm. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah. The challenge with modern therapy is that, and hopefully it'll change, but right now it's not, is that they don't get to the root cause. Like, you can talk yourself to death about your woes of life, how you hated your mom, or you hated your dad, or you hated your ex, and all the crap that happened to you. But how do you change it, right? How do you get better results? How do you heal from it? I didn't say get over it, because you can't actually get over things. You heal from them. You move on. You have acceptance of why certain things happen, right? So that's where I find, and obviously not in all coaching either, right? But that's where I find it in my coaching, why it's so, what's the word I'm going to look for? Transformational is because we get to the root cause. Like, we dig out the thing or things that are keeping you in unhealthy relationships, that make you hate yourself, that keep you small and think that you need to settle and you're not good enough because society said or your mom said or your grandma said. Like it's like putting a band-aid on something. Most therapy is like putting a band-aid on like this gushing wound, right? When we get to the root cause, like we're in there, we're ripping out the thing and then we're stitching it up beautifully, right? So like you're not bleeding anymore. Use like these weird analogies, but you get it. Yeah, if you don't get to the root cause, there's no change.
No, I love it. I love it. I think that's dead on, right? It's like people need in your face. You need to be saying, "Hey, this is what you're doing. This is not valuing anything. You, relationships, anything else." That's one of the reasons that I really wanted to have you on. Of course, we looked you up and I knew quite a bit about you and your success rates and the whole 9 yards. And I resonated a lot with you. I resonated in the fact that this is what it is. There's no mirage on the sides of this that you got to try and navigate through. I like it that you're point blank. And that's how I resonate. That's how most people actually resonate.
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask you this question as we wrap this up here. Who do you prefer talking to, men or women? Who do you prefer coaching?
Oh my God. Why would you put me on a spot like that? I'm just kidding.
It's my show.
I truly, you're going to be like, you're a liar. I truly don't. I truly don't care. I love both of them. I get, make that face. I get equal satisfaction and fulfillment out of helping both men and women. But I'll add a little something here.
All right, because that made me feel toxic. I'm like, you got to have one or the other. It's like, do you like a dog or a cat? I like them both. No, okay, well then give me the reasons why you like them both.
Okay, I will. All right. But I was going to add, this is what I was going to add. It feels even better when I help men move past this. And I think because men have been suffering for such a long time, and it's been easier for women to, because we're women, to feel our feelings. And even though I didn't grow up feeling my feelings, but it is more of a feminine thing, right? We don't get looked down upon if we're crying. We're not told to suck it up and don't be a pussy and don't be a bitch. And when I can help men feel all the things that they never felt safe to feel because society told them it doesn't make them a man, because their dad told them it doesn't make them a man, whatever, right? And they can finally feel safe to be in their heart and to be open and to be vulnerable. That feels really, really good for the world as a whole, because we need good, real masculine men. The world needs it. And more men are killing themselves more now than ever because they're still carrying that conditioned way of being that real men don't cry, real men don't express their feelings, and this makes you a bitch and all this fucked up toxic shit. It's like, it's not true. How is a man any different than a woman when it comes to how they feel in their heart and what feels true to them? So I mean, yeah, to answer your question, I guess I love both, but I feel like I'm doing an even bigger service to the world when I'm helping my men, because it's hard for them. It's harder for them to reach out. It's harder for them to do this work.
Yeah, I love it because it's not a popular thing, right? Like we are trying to demasculize men all the time, and it's not in our DNA. It's not how it works. And then you just turn them into angry bitches versus just bitches. Now they're just angry bitches. And that's not usually a good thing.
No, not at all. Exactly.
All right, young lady, I tell you what, I am so appreciative that you came on the show. Tell people how they can get a hold of you if they'd like to get your services.
Yeah, sure. So you could just look at my website, The Wild Heart Life, exactly how it sounds. You can find me on Instagram, you can find me on Facebook, but pretty much anything that you could ever want to find, whether it's something free or to work with me personally or whatever, you just want to read more, it's thewildheartlife.com.
And I would say, for these people that are sitting there saying, hey, you know what, because it doesn't have to be something long drawn out. It could be something like it's a one session thing. Is that correct? They just call you up and be like, you know what, I'm really just kind of dealing with this. How do and quite honestly, I think more men need female perspectives, right? Because we think we know what you're thinking. Actually, we don't. That's a damn lie. Men are like, I have no idea what the hell she's thinking. But perhaps you could shed light on that when sometimes you just can't talk to somebody because it is a little bit on the toxic side. But would you agree that it's not fair to throw out a relationship based on one or two toxic events? It might be something where you're like, you just got to figure it out first before you climb the wall and go the other side.
Yeah, it needs to be this constant thing, right? Like we're human. We're gonna fuck up. We're not like thinking that your partner's gonna be perfect is absurd, right? You're not perfect. So we screw up. Yes. But it's who we are after that. It's how we remedy that screw up. Is it changed behavior, or is this consistent, persistent thing, and you're voicing how it makes you feel, and the person doesn't do anything different? Then you have to think of, do I want to keep doing this?
I think that's so important, right? Because people take one isolated incident and then you're framed for the rest of your life. And it's a little bit unfair, and it's an overreaction. It's a lot of things. I've seen some incredible relationships go through some really ugly shit. Usually doesn't last more than a year or so, but if you start getting past that, then it's a chronic behavior, probably time to change up whatever it is you're going to do. But I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I knew I couldn't wait to get you on here because we've had some conversation, and I know you roll your eyes a lot at me, so that's okay. At least we got it on air.
I did. I was looking forward to this. This has been a lot of fun.
Good. You managed my toxic masculinity quite well.
Great, Mitch. Stop it.
But I love it. Like, people need to hear this stuff. They need to bad, and realizing that we all are different, trying to help understand one another. I think the work that you do is incredibly important. This is why we run these shows. We want to give people options in a time when they feel like they don't have many options left. So thank you again for coming on the show. Let's stay in touch. Maybe we do a part 2 and we just go over real life scenarios, because I got a whole bunch of those getting ready to come out in this book. So it'll be a lot of fun. I appreciate you more than coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. And absolutely, I'm up for part 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever you want.
Right on. I appreciate you so much.
Thanks, Mitch.